Denial is a major branch of our family tree.
For some reason, I haven't been able to get this statement out of my head. Kenny says this within the first few minutes of the very first episode of From, after a game of chess with his father.
He said the answers to the end are at the beginning.
Clues to look for that stem from Kenny's connection with his Chinese roots. There are many elements of Chinese culture throughout the series, like the zodiac and yin and yang, dragon references, and even the color yellow. We've also been given countless signs that our heroes of Fromville are on a quest, engaged in an ancient game that has been played over and over, one they seem destined to lose.
You know, with my dad, every single game would always end the same way. I'd be down on my last piece, and I just keep moving around the same 3 spaces trying to avoid him. Those things, they walk. They never run, because they know there's only so many places we can go. I think we're running out of spaces on the board, Sheriff.
But this round of the game has only just begun, and Kenny has been training for this his whole life, playing one of the most ancient games known to man, chess.
You know, he used to make me play for hours when I was a kid, and I hated it.
Really?
Now I
Kenny is the lonely dragon.
It's like the cavern of the lonely dragon, and it was full of stuff that nobody wanted. In one of the big piles of stuff, there was the map of the rainbow sky. So, the lonely dragon gave it to the Kromanakal, and then she wasn't lost anymore. So maybe we'll find a map in here.
He will find the map, the key to unlocking the nature of this game. Kenny will help find order in the chaos that is Fromville, and in turn, help guide the way out. Let's break it down. Throughout the series, this place is constantly being compared to as a game, something the townspeople need to beat to figure out how to win.
Yahtzee.
There's drawings of scarecrows and boogeymen, giant spiders. This is definitely a quest.
Not gonna solve the puzzle sitting here all day.
It's like the ultimate escape room. I mean, seriously, I don't know how he pulled all this together.
This isn't some grade school softball game where everyone gets a participation medal.
There's a popular theory that the two entities, the man in yellow and the boy in white, are playing a game against each other, good versus evil, and that the townspeople are just their game pieces, their pawns in their fucked up little game.
So, Baba Khatri questioned her, and what he found proof of is that something here was talking to her, using her like
a pawn.
As we will uncover a little bit further into this video, there's definitely themes from the show Lost that are sort of reused in our beloved show From. A quick spoiler warning if you haven't seen it yet, skip ahead about 10 seconds. But I don't think that it's two entities against each other. That's way too on the nose for the whole Jacob and the Man in Black storyline. They are using similar themes, but with a slightly different take. Instead, I think it's the people versus Fromville.
But someone who loved them told them a story. The story gave them hope. And when the children laid on the stones, they poured their hope into the roots that make the symbol, and those roots became the tree.
Kids love pretend play, stories, games. So oftentimes, adults will make a game out of a scary or complicated situation, turning fear and confusion into engagement, understanding, and even hope.
How about you and I have an adventure?
What kind of adventure?
Some sort of treasure hunt.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the game is going to be called Where Does the Light Come From?
What are we doing?
We play, feel better.
Yeah, I mean, can't go to sleep. Might as well have some fun.
Maybe we should play another game.
What kind of game?
We are gonna play a little game.
The original versions of Jade and Tabitha also made up a quest, a game that they told the Ankui children they were playing. to help the children cope with the horrible truth of their sacrifice. And so the hope that the children poured into the tree created the town, a manifestation of the game they were told they were playing. Scary stuff and everything. And with each reincarnation, each new cycle, these stories too become a part of the town, the hero's quest.
Let's go to the tower. Behold, the tower.
You want me to tell you a story?
It's okay. I can tell my own stories now.
Nathan was always terrified of cicadas. He thought they were monsters.
Wait, I know that one. It's an old nursery rhyme. My grandmother used to sing it to me.
And Ethan is writing the story of this cycle, narrating for us what to expect.
It's like the cavern of the lonely dragon.
Yeah?
When the Kramanaka was lost in the rainbow sky, she found a cavern where the lonely dragon lived.
Which brings us to my man, Kenny. Okay, let's start with the fact that there's a very obvious connection with Kenny's Chinese roots and why he might be the lonely dragon. Dragons are arguably the most iconic symbol related to Chinese culture. They're deeply woven into folklore, the zodiac, traditional medicine, and countless other aspects of Chinese heritage going back thousands and thousands of years. And the Liu family tree, its roots go back to the very foundations of Chinese culture, and of course, to dragons. Looking back at the earliest known Liu, we have Emperor Liu Bang, known as one of the greatest rulers in Chinese history, who founded the Han Dynasty over 2,000 years ago. As the story goes, his mother was resting by a river when she was caught in a rainstorm. As lightning flashed, a dragon appeared to her, and not long after she became pregnant with Liu Bang. But some claim it wasn't just any old dragon that came to her, but the yellow dragon, symbolizing Liu Bang's divine heritage to Huangdi, the Yellow Emperor, an ancient demigod who ruled 2,000 years before Liu Bang, almost 5,000 years ago. Say what now? I know what you're thinking. Does Kenny have a connection to the man in yellow? Is he meant to represent the Yellow Emperor? Well, Huangdi is generally regarded as a hero, unlike Old Man River over here. He shaped the foundation for the philosophical concept of yin and yang, duality, and balance in the universe, as the key to spiritual vitality to immortal life. He is also said to be an incarnation of the yellow dragon. According to mythology, the yellow dragon is a celestial being that bridges the earth and the heavens, symbolizing a connection between different realms of existence. It has the power to control water, to bring rains, and manage floods. It also represents the changing of cycles, the transition period between different phases, like the changing of seasons. After Huangdi's earthly life, he transformed back into the yellow dragon, ascending to the heavens and becoming immortal. This seems very reminiscent of the man in yellow, I must say. I mean, we've seen him bring on the rainstorms.
You see those clouds out there?
Motherfucker.
And it seems as though he just now has shown up in Fromville as the seasons are changing at the start of a new cycle, marked by the arrival of Jade and Tabitha. So far, we haven't seen much of the man in yellow, and from what we've seen, he appears to be pure evil. But perhaps there's a different way to look at this. I mean, the yellow dragon represents the transitional period between seasons, right? Between cycles of life. And the state of transformation requires destruction. For rebirth, there must be death. And so, maybe he simply is just the harbinger of change. Now, Kenny is also part of the line of the yellow dragon, so maybe he too can bring about change, help the people make sense from Fromville's chaotic nature.
It only looks like chaos until you understand the pattern.
And even further down Kenny's lineage, you have the creator of humanity himself, Fuxi, who shared with humanity the key to unlocking the natural order of the universe, the pattern in the chaos. Fuxi was somewhat dragon-like himself, being described as having a serpent's body with a human face. He led the people of ancient China almost 6,000 years ago, before civilization as we know it. The world seemed so scary, so unpredictable. Humanity was at the mercy of nature, facing the dangers of the weather, the terrain, the wild animals, the lack of food, you name it. So Fuxi took a step back. He just observed what was going on around him. He realized there is a pattern here, a cycle, a natural order to the universe. And so he created the 8 trigrams, symbols, to represent the different elements of nature that he observed.
And that's why we have to figure out the pattern. If we can figure out the pattern, then we can figure out the shape.
And figure out that shape he did. One day, Fuxi was doing his thing down by the Yellow River, an important place in Chinese culture, the birthplace of ancient Chinese civilization. Fuxi was at the river when suddenly a dragon horse type of creature emerged from the water, sometimes thought to be the yellow dragon. Fuxi again observed a pattern, dark and light markings on the dragon's back that were arranged in a specific shape. From this, he created the Hetu, or Yellow River Map. Fuxi believed the Hetu was a sort of cipher or key that was meant to be used with the 8 trigrams he created to unlock the pattern of the natural world. Alright, so this brings us to another short spoiler about the show Lost. So if you haven't seen it yet, skip ahead about 10-15 seconds. But yeah, you saw that right. This is exactly like the Dharma logo. And yeah, it's another shared concept between these shows. But keep listening. I think the connection to the Baguas and Chinese culture and from is still a somewhat unique and interesting take, separate from what we've seen in Lost. Okay, so first, a little more history on the Bagua. The main purpose originally was to help people predict seasonal and geographical patterns to avoid the destructive nature of Earth. But 500 years later, massive flooding had returned to China and it was devastating the people. Fuxi, being a god and all, sent help to the people by way of the Loshu Square. Like the Yellow River Map revealed through markings on the back of a mythical creature, this time a tortoise, appearing before Yu the Great, another descendant of the Yellow Emperor. We will get back to him in a bit. And so we have 2 Baguas, one to reveal the nature of the universe, called Earlier Heaven, and one to reveal how to control it, called Later Heaven. So this reminds me of the journal and Tabitha's bracelet in the storage room of the diner. These items are kind of like the original Bagua, the Earlier Heaven one, the key to understanding the nature of this place. Each item carries symbolic meaning that they had to decipher, the journal representing sacrifice and the bracelet reincarnation. I think there's more to find in that diner, an item that will reveal how to control the nature of this place, like the second Bagua. And now that Tian Chen is gone, there's only one mortal survivor of the Yellow Dragon clan. Kenny.
Oho chuguko yiga takochigela. I don't even know if I'm saying this right.
Take care of him. He'll be alone now.
In one of the big piles of stuff, there was the map of the rainbow sky. So, the Lonely Dragon gave it to the Kramanako and then she wasn't lost anymore. So maybe we'll find a map in here.
Yeah.
Kenny is the Lonely Dragon, and like his ancestors, he will give the people the map, the cryptic key that will help them take control of the game.
Fu Han.
What?
His name, Fu Han.
Kenny's dad made it a point to mention his government name. I mean, by no means am I an expert in Chinese, but from what I've gathered, there are several potential meanings behind his name. And I found one interpretation that is pretty damn interesting. Fu meaning talisman, symbols, or signs, and Han meaning mark, trace, or scar. Hello, like the markings on the turtle and the dragon horse thing that led to the creations of the Baguas. This feels like confirmation to me of Kenny's ancestry being important, that Kenny will play a role in deciphering the talismans and unlocking the mysteries of Frumville. It's also interesting how the talismans in From are set up almost exactly the same as these Baguas. You have 8 symbols arranged in a circle surrounding a representation of duality, 2 halves of a whole within the center. The mirrored image of a man, the opposing forces of night and day, they echo the yin and yang at the heart of the Bagua. Both are also cryptic, requiring additional esoteric knowledge to fully understand their meaning and power. And not only do they look similar, but they are also used in a very similar way. In the practice of feng shui, the Bagua is also used as a mirror hung above your front door, used as a protective amulet against evil spirits or negative energy. Much like how our talismans are used in Frumville, the Bagua is also used to transform chaos into order. For example, in modern-day feng shui, the Bagua map is used to apply to your home to guide the ideal layout of your space, where to put your furniture, to create harmony with the natural flow of the universe, and maximize your chi or your energy. Remember the guy we talked about earlier who discovered the Loshu Square? Yu the Great? Well, his story perfectly encapsulates this concept. He was known as the controller of floods, much like his yellow dragon ancestry represents. And so his story goes, the Yellow River was causing devastating floods for decades, and the people were building dams and dikes to no avail. You realize that they had been approaching the problem all wrong. They had been fighting against the river. Instead, he asked, what if they worked with the river? So, with the help of the Loshu Square, you found the patterns, the laws of the natural flow of the landscape. He observed how water flows from higher to lower ground. He identified optimal areas to redirect the water and constructed irrigation tunnels to nourish crops. By working with the river's flow, they turned floods into fertile land, fostering vitality and finding balance and harmony with nature. In this story, the river represents qi, the flow of energy or life force, and the riverbanks and the landscape represent yin and yang. And Yu's strategy of using the Loshu Square as a guide reflects feng shui. We've already seen someone in Kenny's family tree utilize this concept. Back in season 1, when Jade and Jim were trying to figure out how to power electricity to their radio tower, it was Tian Chen who sparked a light bulb moment for Jade.
You need electric?
Yeah.
Like you in the Yellow River, Jade figured out how to redirect the flow of the electricity, the qi, from the lamps to the tower. Much like the story of Fuxi, Tian Chen helped Jade to take a step back, observe the nature of this place. What can he actually see happening? The light doesn't draw its power from the electrical wires in the walls of the house, but directly from the lamp itself.
Well, nature has a design, Jade.
While this place may look like the normal world on the surface, it's anything but. It follows its own design, its own laws of nature. Glad you asked. First off, if you haven't already, go check out my Season 4 Theories and Predictions video about Boyd's moral dilemma. In that video, I cover how I believe there will be flooding and rainstorms, and that Jade is the one who must go up into the lighthouse to light the way. They will need to look to the stars and use deception to make their way out. Going back to the concept of feng shui, in ancient times it was used to find energy hotspots, sacred areas where the spiritual and physical world intersect, acting as portals between realms. And at these sacred grounds, shamans would perform rituals, seeking protection, knowledge, control over the weather, or even immortality. Many believed that the stars were a source of cosmic power, allowing one to harness the magic of the stars. Back in season 1, during Victor's childhood flashback, we literally saw a sign that this place is connected to star magic. There is also a ritualistic dance known as the Bugong, or pacing the stars. It is said to lead to the gate to heaven, located at the tail of the Big Dipper. You know, the Yellow Emperor was also said to have been conceived when his mother saw a bolt of lightning circling around one of the stars of the Big Dipper, kind of like a spotlight on the gate to heaven. The Big Dipper is like a map, not only for rituals and magic, but also used for navigation, like in sailing. This is why I think our heroes will need to look to the stars to find the way out. They will sail across the symbolic Yellow River to get to the gate to heaven, or portal out of this realm. However, this is a game, remember? And it won't be just getting to the door out of here. There's an opponent, a bad guy you gotta beat to win the game. Just like in chess and its ancient Chinese counterpart, Xiangpi, the ultimate goal in Frumville is to cross into enemy territory and kill the king. On the Xiangpi chessboard, the Yellow River runs through the middle of the board, a dividing point that you must cross in order to get to the enemy's king. It was also believed that the Yellow River flowed from heaven as a continuation of the Milky Way, symbolizing both the connection and crossing point between the spiritual and earthly realms. On the chessboard, there is also what's known as a palace on each side, where their respective kings reside. But the catch is that the king cannot leave the palace, protected so to speak within its 8 walls. Kinda like the talisman in Bagua with their 8 symbols, also used to protect a space. I think this might be a clue that there is a bigger, badder boss here in Frumville, something that is staying protected on the other side of the river. Xiangpi also employs ancient Chinese military strategies, heavily influenced by the principle of Sun Tzu's art of war. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. This is the core principle of Sun Tzu, and so far the baddies in Frumville are employing it effectively by manipulating the townspeople. Sun Tzu also taught that warfare is based on deception, like how Abby, Sarah, and Elgin were tricked into doing horrific things. Sun Tzu also said, "The whole secret lies in confusing the enemy so that he cannot fathom our real intent."
There are things out here that are worse than the monsters.
I always thought the town was the worst part.
With the cicada monster, the man in yellow, time travel, and impregnating Fatima with that fucking monster, it's clear that there's more to this place than just the monsters that come out at night. The real intent remains hidden, with more crazy shit ahead of them that they can't even fathom yet. But amongst chaos, there is always faith.
Chaos and faith. That is the duality of our existence.
Sun Tzu reminds us, in the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity. As mentioned earlier in my video called Boyd's Dilemma, I talk about how there will be a flood and massive rainstorms. Perhaps it's during that chaos when a window of opportunity will open. In that same video, we talked about how Boyd and crew might need to get a little tricksy.
Sneaky little hobbitses. Wicked, tricksy, fierce.
Deception, like in the story of the Trojan horse, to catch their enemy off guard. If Kenny is like his yellow dragon ancestors, then maybe he too will be able to somehow control the water and create order out of the chaos. As Sun Tzu also teaches, if your opponent is temperamental, seek to irritate him. Pretend to be weak that he may grow arrogant. Attack him where he is unprepared. Appear where you are not expected. I think they will likely provoke the big bad boss in charge here, purposely push to bring chaos, and then strike. I mean, the boy in white told us that you can piss off the bad guys here.
Nathan had a theory about this place. If we tried to leave, if we pushed too hard, then something would push back.
Nathan was right about this place. It's angry now.
And so that brings us to one final principle from Sun Tzu that we've often heard Kenny echo. Those who are able to adapt and change in accord with the enemy and achieve victory are called divine.
You either adapt or you lose your mind.
Well, then you're gonna lose your mind. Okay, because that's what happens
to people who can't adapt. They can't bend, so eventually they break. Jade, look, every new person who comes here just assumes that it's just the monsters they have to be afraid of, but that's not the hardest part. It's what this place does to you.
Kenny sees the bigger game at play through his understanding of chess and his awareness of the nature of this place. Kenny understands that they need to make a move, that the talismans alone aren't the end-all be-all saving grace of the town. And there's one more thing I want to talk about before we wrap this up. We can't forget about the whole denial thing that Kenny was talking about when he was mentioning his family tree.
Denial is a major branch of our family tree.
On the surface, Kenny was talking about how he and his mom were in denial about his father, Bing Can's condition.
Kenny, maybe we should,
It's just hard. You know, it's to believe that he was... She just keeps saying that he'll get better.
And since his father died, Boyd has become Kenny's surrogate father figure.
I get that you want to prepare him for the worst. Get him ready to take your place in case something ever... But right now, he's really hurting. And I don't think he needs a sheriff, I think he needs a dad.
Boyd is showing symptoms of Parkinson's disease, which has a potential for dementia, just like Kenny's father had. And just like with his father, Kenny is in denial about the reality of it.
You know, this is how it started with my dad back home. There would be moments where he just seemed like a completely different person. Say things that he would never say. We'd rationalize it. Say he was just tired, say he was under a lot of stress.
Which brings us to another connection with Liu Bang. One legend tells of him traveling with his rebel army when a white serpent crossed their path. Liu Bang killed it, and the next day a woman was crying by the snake's corpse. She claimed it was her son from the White Emperor, and that the son of the Red Emperor killed it. In Xiangpi, instead of black and white, the chess pieces are traditionally black and red. We've seen Kenny hand Boyd a red-bloodied chess piece, and Father Khatri is holding one while reminding Boyd of his fatherly role to Kenny.
That's what you are to Kenny now. You're the father Kenny no longer has.
Boyd is the leader of the red side, and Kenny is his successor, the son of the Red Emperor. Wouldn't that be interesting if this story is hinting that Kenny will kill maybe the boy in white? But one more thing about Liu Bang. He was also said to have overthrown the Qin dynasty. He came from humble beginnings, first working his way up to a sheriff before leading a rebellion against his oppressors, becoming Emperor of China.
You have to be ready to step up. You got that? You're sheriff now.
And so Kenny is in denial about having to eventually take over for Boyd. That at some point, Boyd's condition will worsen.
It has to be you wearing this badge, and not some hothead like Acosta or anybody else who might come through here. You.
I'm not taking your badge.
Kenny.
But if you're still looking for a deputy, I'll take that one back.
Or maybe Liu Bang's story is hinting at a rebellion against Boyd. However it goes down, Kenny will become a king here, possibly in the worst kind of way. The yellow dragon is part of his family tree, and maybe that is his destiny, to become the next man in yellow.
Not every story gets a happy ending. Mine didn't. Bing Shen's didn't.
I think maybe Kenny is also in denial about there being a happy ending here. He has shown so much hope, has helped people to adapt and survive here. Deep down, I think he knows there's no making it out of here alive. But their attempts to beat the game are not futile.
For the first time, I felt like there were threads that were finally starting to connect.
You know, my dad used to say, it's hard to see the sweater when you're only just a thread. All the people that have gotten stuck here, maybe we aren't the ones that get to go home. But maybe what we did here makes it easier for the people who come next.
What do you think? Man, what a rabbit hole I went down researching for this video. I'm sure there are things I missed or other interpretations that might add to these connections better, but if you got something, let me know in the comments below. There's so much more about Chinese culture than I ever imagined, so if you like this video, stay tuned for more. There will be a part 2. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please consider subscribing and throwing a like. There's also channel memberships open if you want to throw a little extra support my way. Until next time, toodles.